welcome to Katrina's Creations Knitting Podcast. This is episode 6. It's hard to believe. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it, and I actually have a finished object. If you remember the last 3 weeks, I've been frantically knitting for my niece. I thought I had months to do this, and then found out there was a baby shower. So I finished it this morning, and this podcast is actually going out a day early because I'm going to be at the baby shower tomorrow giving her this baby blanket. So this is the wrong side, but you'll be able to see where the progress keeper is to see how far I knitted this week. Here's where I've knitted from, and here's where I knitted to. So all together, I actually knitted half of it this week. Here's the front of it. Let's try to get it close so you can see it. This is called Lydia's Baby Cables. It is by Carolyn Strohmeyer. It is a very old pattern. When I say old, it's at least 11 years old because I've knitted it for quite a few of my grandkids. So now all I have to do is take the progress keeper off of it and get it wrapped up, and it will be ready to go for tomorrow. So now I can actually get into some fun knitting. So I did start another little project just because I needed to get away from that a couple times. I'm making a snowman. I saw this on another podcast, and I don't even remember which one. And I'm not using any pattern from anybody. I just am kind of winging it and hoping it works out on its own. Taking 2 styrofoam balls, and I have 2 littler balls to make little snow people. So anyway, this is what's going in, and then I am knitting almost like I'm knitting it flat. I'm knitting it almost like a tube. I'm starting it flat. This is the bottom part of the snowman. Let me put it over here, you can see better. This will be the bottom part of the snowman down here. And this is the yarn that was left over from my mother's sweater. And this has iridescence in it too. It's the same type of yarn. This is just the white version, and it's iridescent, and this has the sapphire color in it. This is going to be the snowman's body. And so I just started off with some increases to make it. It started off small at the bottom, and then as it's gotten wider around here, I am doing increases, and then I'll decrease again here where the neck attaches for here, and then I'll go back into the white again and do some more increases. So by the time I finish, hopefully, and I am going to put along the bottom and along the top where the neck is and the top of the snowman, I'm going to put like a drawstring threaded through this, so that once I put this on this around the styrofoam balls, I will actually stitch the back of this up, and then if it still needs to be further tightened, then I can use the drawstring and kind of snug it in so it'll fit and he won't look like a flabby snowman. It's funny, years ago I homeschooled my kids, and I also worked as an evaluator for homeschoolers. And one of the houses I went to one time, it was in the middle of the winter time, and we had a pretty good sized snow. And so I stopped by because you have to monitor how they're doing halfway through the year and things like that. And we had this snow, and up in the yard are these, humongous snowballs. They must have been 5 feet, or, they were so big. They had 3 of them piled in a row, laying on the ground. And the head of the snowman was laying on the ground. And sitting next to the snowman was a stick with a sign on the top that said, "Fallen. I have fallen, and I can't get up." I sat there and I laughed so hard. When I came in, I told the lady, I said, "I love your snowman." And she said, "Well, the kids got a little overboard with making the snowballs, and they kept getting bigger and bigger, and then they couldn't stack them on top of each other. So that's what they decided to do, was to stick a sign that said, 'Help, I have fallen, and I can't get up.'" So I thought that was adorable. So anyway, my snowman's not going to be that big. Won't have a problem. I am going to I'm going to have my husband cut a block of wood and put a screw up through the center, and then I'm going to impale the snowman, but I think that'll hold it because it's going to have some weight on the bottom to keep it from tipping over, you know, so I can stand it up. And like I said, I've got some littler balls for the other little snowmen will be about like this size. So we'll see how it works out, but I just saw that and thought, oh, it'd be fun. I don't have any little snowmen around my house. And that seemed like the perfect thing to do with that white and blue sparkly yarn because it's not really something I'd wear. So that's my project that my work in progress for this week. I haven't done anything on the Kool-Aid shawl at all, although one of my goals this week, I don't have that much further to go. I just want to be done with it at this point. It has ceased to be fun. I'm not even overly happy with how it's turning out just because the yarn is very busy, the pattern is very busy, and it just makes my eyes go wonky. I have never had so much trouble with the pattern. I don't think it's the pattern, it's me just because of all the busyness between the pattern and the color. Yeah, I kind of, part of me has been saying, rip it out, rip it out, rip it out. And just do something in a garter stitch that would show off the colors more. But I've gotten so far on it that I hate to go do that after all the time I've spent. So it is what it is. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to finish it and be done with it. And I'm going to have almost half of the yarn left over. So I'll probably, it was almost 1,000 yards. I will probably have almost 500 yards left. So I haven't decided yet whether I am going to ply 2 strands together and try to make it something other than lace weight, or if I'm going to keep it the way it is, or if I'm going to bundle them together and make minis and just stick them in my Etsy shop. I really am not sure what I'm going to do. So if you have suggestions, let me know down the bottom. Oh, and thank you for the suggestions for the Cornhuskers lotion for my hands last week. I haven't gotten it yet. I've gone to 2 different stores and I haven't found it so far. But I am going to Walmart later this week, so I guess they'll probably have it. Because I was trying to be cheap and go to the dollar store and a Dollar General, and neither of them had it, so I will go there and get some of it because I've got to do something. I'm snagging the yarn something terrible with my hands. Every winter it happens, and I get all scaly and scratchy and itchy and dry, and I have to watch it because some of the lotions, like Bath and Body Works, I love their stuff, but in the wintertime it dries my hands out. I don't know what's in it, but anyway, it dries my hands out. So, acquisitions. We will move on to acquisitions, and I will show you what I've gotten. I bought 1 ball of this a couple weeks ago. This is the Danita Liney. I think it's Liney. Anyway, I bought this. I bought 1 skein of it a few weeks ago, and there's only, I think it's 140 meters. It's 153 yards per skein, and I don't want to have them discontinue this color and have to buy more. So I would rather have more than less. So I bought another skein of this. I have no clue what I'm doing with it, but now at least I've got 300 yards to do it with. Which will at least get me a scarf. This is 100% cotton, and it's really soft, and like I'd mentioned before, it reminds me of like spongeware or spatterware pottery. So I really like the colors, and it'll go good with blue jeans and stuff like that. So bought another skein of this. Oh, and by the way, the sweater I am wearing today is one that I made. I did not use a pattern for it, so all this is a, so if I get close, it's just a shell pattern, like a small baby shell pattern. The sleeves are just plain with just ribbing stitch. And then the bottom, I would stand up, except that this came out kind of short. I ran out of yarn, and I didn't want to buy a whole other skein. Sorry about that. That was my telephone, and it always rings 4 times before the answering machine picks up. This is what the bottom looks like. I just did a crochet bottom to it. just because it kept rolling on me, and I didn't have enough yarn to do a ribbed bottom to it, but I wanted something kind of lacy, so it's just a simple little crocheted edging that I put on it. Last week was my birthday, and I talked about that my husband had said, you know, what do you want for your birthday? And I went, patterns. I want some paid for patterns that I'd had my eye on, but I felt guilty buying them because I had just bought off of Amazon I bought like 3 or 4 knitting books, so I kind of felt guilty if I didn't use those first, but I saw these patterns and I really wanted them, so he was like, yeah, go ahead and get them. So I bought myself my birthday presents. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with them and the yarns I'm going to use. The first one is Bendy Arrow, which I've talked about. And this is by Charlotte Bory. The colors she has it in are like a navy blue and like a variegated white with navy blue in it. Like a speckled. I guess it'd be more speckled. Almost this speckled. But it's really pretty, and I wanted to do, initially I was going to do my pink and gray. I wanted to do Dragonfels, which is another one I bought. I wanted to do it in these 2 yarns because I really just thought that the contrasting colors was pretty, because I like the browns and the deep colors in this, and this paired with it. However, I realized once I printed the pattern out, it calls for 3 colors, and I only have 2. Now, I know I could go buy another color that would go with these, but when I look at this and I see all the different reds, and there's some pink and some brown, I just don't know quite what color I would put with it. I mean, these colors in here that you're seeing in the front here, they're almost like a blood red. They're kind of a brownish, like barn red. That would be the best color. It would be brown, like barn red. Yeah, I get afraid if I put a different red with this, that it'll be too much and it will clash too much. I had thought about getting a darker brown to put with it, but this, even though in here it looks like this is a dark brown, it really isn't. Yeah, well, you can see it a little bit. It's more of a barn red, and yeah, I could put a barn red with it, but then I worry about it clashing with the bulk of this, which is almost a tomato red. I don't know. I might take it with me to my knitting group on Tuesday night and wander around the shop and just keep holding it up to things and see if it matches or goes with anything. Otherwise, this is going to be Bendy Arrows. The next pattern I got, I saw on By the Lakeside podcast, and she was making this, which is the Ardent shawl. And I have 3 different yarns that I might make out of this. It's excuse me, garter, and then it has some lace in the edging, like right in here. It has some lace edging mixed in with the garter. And it's all done in one color, but I thought in a variegated it would be really, really pretty. Or a gradient, one of the 2. So I bought, well, I didn't buy, I had this yarn. It's going to be one of these 3. Either this, which is Painted Desert. It's a lot of pastels. It would be really pretty. It's the skein is falling apart because I've looked at it so much. But yeah, there it is. And that's pretty good colors too. It's showing it pretty good. This is Painted Desert. All of these I have enough yarn to do for the pattern, so it's going to be one of them. I have this sock blank. This is by Query Fibers. I bought this up at Love to Knit. I got this at Love to Knit in Rhode Island on our vacation. If you don't watch the Yarn Shop Girls, they are the owner. 2 of them are owners. One of them is somebody who works in the store, but the three of them podcast together. I got to meet two of them. I met Marissa and Ann when I was in the store. I went running into the store, and the first thing I said is, "Where's your bathroom?" And after I did that, then I proceeded to almost knock over their mannequin. I know how to make a grand entrance. I really do. Anyway, they just put up their new podcast. I was so glad to see it because I hadn't seen one for like 6 weeks, and I was afraid they weren't podcasting anymore, and they're one of my favorites. So if you're looking for a recommendation, check those out. And my other favorite podcast is a mother-daughter group. It's called Cherry Pearls Podcast. And Cherry, and the Pearls is P-U-R-L, like knitting, like pearls. They are just outside of Louisiana, or they are in Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans. And it's a mother-daughter. The daughter has an Etsy shop. I believe it's called Teeny Button Studio. But she dyes yarn, and she does a beautiful job. She has some gorgeous yarns. There's one I got my eye on that's called Tiffany Box, I believe. And it literally looks the color of the Tiffany box. And the mother just made a shawl with that color in it. And it's beautiful. And the mother designed the shawl. So I think she's writing the pattern for that too. But anyway, those are two podcasts that I really enjoy. And those are ones to check out. Anyway, back to this. This is a sock blank, and it goes from chocolate brown. It's actually called, I think it's called oranges and chocolate oranges. Yeah, because it goes from a chocolate brown and then different grades of orange all the way into a light, almost a peachy orange. So, Query Fibers, and she is a local dyer up in Rhode Island. In fact, Yarn Shop Girls have actually done one of their podcasts with her in the podcast, or as like a featured person. So it was really good. I enjoyed it. I think that'll be pretty because that's a gradient. This one I'm thinking about. This is the other one that I could do with Ardent. And this it goes from charcoal all the way down to white. It's called Onyx. And this is a hand dyer up in Maine. She's in, I believe it's Stockton Springs. It's called Purple Fleece. Yes, Stockton Springs. It's called Purple Fleece. She does have a website, so you can buy online. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking of making. And it's funny because when I saw this in her shop, I had been looking for this color and eyeing it in different yarn companies that had this gradient, because I tend to wear a lot of black, and I like grays and blacks, and they go with everything. So I really like this. So one of these three yarns or skeins is going to go into that shawl. And if I really enjoy that shawl, who knows, I might make all three of them in it. Because it just looks like it would be a fun pattern. The other pattern that I have is Drachenfels. This is Melanie Berg that did this. That's how you spell it. And the yarn I have for that is these three. They are Ultra Pima Cascade yarn. And it was funny because I think I mentioned this in one of my other podcasts, is my husband and I had gone for a walk right after we came back from vacation, and I looked up at the sky, and it was like gray and blue and white, and it was kind of smeared together, the clouds were, and I was like, oh, look at those beautiful colors. That would make such a pretty shawl. Well, duh. Yeah. I got home and thought, I bought some of that. I can have a shawl the color of the sky I saw that night. So, Drachenfels, I think, is going to be with this. And then I have, and I've showed these three before. I don't have the pattern right in front of me. I've got to go find it. I sat it down someplace. There's another shawl pattern called Pirate Cove. It reminds me a lot of Drachenfels. So, and this is showing up blue. It's not. This is a turquoise color. It's going to show it blue. No matter what I do, it's going to show it up as blue. But it's This is gray. This is actually a turquoise, a definite turquoise color. I don't know why it's showing so bad. I think it's just because it's a blue. And then this variegated. Now that is true to color. So if you look at the turquoise in here, that's what this color really is. So these three together, but I might have to buy more yarn. I thought there was more in these skeins than what there is. So those are my upcoming pattern. Oh, I've got one more upcoming pattern planned. This is the fourth one that I bought. It's also Melanie Berg on the Spice Market. I saw this on the Grocery Girls. Tracy, I think it was, made it. And I fell in love with the pattern. I was like, oh, I got to make that. When I saw the pattern, it actually takes like 6 or 7 different yarns, and some of the yarns that it takes are only maybe 90 yards. I mean, it's little bits. And I thought, well, how can I do this? I hate to buy a whole skein of yarn for 90 yards. So I thought, well, I could buy minis. That would be one option. And I thought about buying a gradient mini kit and then supplementing it with larger sets. Then I had this kind of crazy idea, and it really is crazy, and I'm hoping it works, and it's really thinking out of the box, but we'll see. And I'll show you what my plan is. I have, I'm going to fall off the chair here trying to reach it. Okay. Here are 3 of the main colors. I have several skeins of these. I'm just showing you the one. There's this one, and it is showing up purple. It's not. This is a rose. This one is purple. And this is a gray, kind of a steel gray. These are the main 3 colors. There you can see the differences. Yeah, these are the main 3 colors. For the smaller colors that it calls for, and like I said, this is really thinking out of the box, and it might totally not work, and I'm only going to try it with one skein. This yarn is called Chromatic. It has those same colors in it. It is the same fiber content. The only difference is, and it has kind of a sheen to it, and the other yarn also has a sheen to it, and this yarn, I didn't tell you what it was. This is LRA Cozy Soft. This is spun as a single. That's the only difference. The colors are almost identical to the colors that I bought in the full sized. But as you can see, this is variegated. I'm going to cut the skein apart because they look like they are long draws with color before they change. So I'm basically going to take this thing apart, divide it up by the colors. I'm going to have tons of ends to weave in, but I really like the way these colors go with those colors, and yeah, so I'm going to try that. I don't know if it'll work or not, but I'm going to do it with only one skein. I have 2 skeins of this, so if I mess up, I'll only be messing up one ball of yarn, and then I would have to, if it doesn't work, then I'll just have to go get more yarn and the colors that kind of go with this, that go with that, and we'll go from there. But this is my experiment. I don't know. Like I said, don't know if it's going to work. We'll give it a shot. Some other acquisitions I've gotten are material, and these are kind of like goals that I've got going on for the rest of my the next week. I want to get the bendy arrows on the needles. That's one goal. I also want to start a sweater. It is from a book called Knitting Plus. I got this off of Amazon as a used book. It is by Lisa Schroyer. And the pattern that I want to do is this sweater. Is that pretty or what? It looks like it's tons of cables. I already bought the buttons from the front. And the yarn I'm using is some that I bought at Peter Patch's up in, also in Rhode Island, in Cranston, Rhode Island. And here it is. It's kind of an oatmeal-y color. It's tweed. That's pretty close. It's an oatmeal tweed kind of color. That's what I want to make it in. So those are the 2 projects that, the other projects with the yarn that I bought and the patterns I bought, I'm going to get to, but the sweater and the bendy arrows are the 2 that I want to get on the needles next. And I'm really bad. I'm really, really bad. At Christmas time, my husband had said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And we buy each other 3 presents. We each get a magazine subscription that we like. And I said, I would like a yarn winder and a Swift. Eyes glazed over. He's like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And I could tell. It was like he didn't know what in the world I was. So I'm trying to explain it to him. Finally, I was like, it would probably be best if I went ahead and picked it out because I know what I'm looking for. So he was like, sure. So I know what I've got. It's already come in. In fact, I already took it out of the, I took them both out of the box to make sure they worked so that we could leave feedback because we ordered them online. And so now part of me is looking at these giant cake of yarn I've got sitting there. You know, it's on a big cone and going, I could like use, it's not wrapped yet. It's not in the Christmas wrapping. I could take it out of the box and cake up this yarn that I want to do, like for these 2 projects. And you know, it's like little angel on one side, little devil on the other going, the devil's going, sure, do it, do it, do it. And the angel part's going, no, you shouldn't do that because you should wait till Christmas. I have to act surprised when I unwrap it. So, yeah, I don't know whether I'm going to give in or not, but it sure would be a whole lot easier if I can put it on the caked up thing instead of trying to hand roll this into a ball to get started. So I could do it as quality control. Make sure it's functioning the way it should be. I'm trying to talk myself into this, you can see. Anyway, now I also bought some material since I had shown you before, and I had hoped to get this done by Thanksgiving, but a baby Afghan got in the way. I'm working on some project bags for the Etsy shop. These, which were going to be done, which are not now. Thanksgiving, a little late, maybe next year. Little turkeys, and this side has little leaves. And then I had, things are falling off my lap right now. Little leaves, and this side is sparkly, like drizzled fall color lines. So I don't know when I'm gonna, there's no push to get these done at that point because we're past Thanksgiving, so they're not going to be done. But I did get some others that I'm going to be putting together. Here's 2. These are little owls. And then this is just a gray background. So those 2 together. And these 2 together. And these I'm not as happy about, but anyway, these 2 together. So those are projects I've got going at this point that I hope to get around to. And let's see, the last thing was something I completely forgot about last week and realized it as I was editing the video. I completely forgot about the book recommendation, and it was even sitting there. I completely forgot. So we're going to do it this week. This is the new title. It is Anne Canadio. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Anne Canadio. And this is not the first book in the series. It's called The Black Sheep Knitting Mysteries. This one's called A Stitch Before Dying. And there's a lady named Maggie. She owns a yarn store, like in Massachusetts. It takes place along the shore in Massachusetts. In fact, 2 of the series of books that I read take place along the shore in Massachusetts. But anyway, this one, Maggie owns the yarn store, and then there's several characters. One of the main ones that's in the story is named Lucy. And, of course, you know, things happen and they have to solve mysteries. And so the knitting group goes together and does this. Each of these books do contain, you can see it's a library book. Each of these books do contain a pattern in the back as well as a recipe. In fact, all of the ones that I've showed so far, the majority of them have at least a pattern in the back. Some of them have a pattern and a recipe. But most of them, I think the Yarn to Go series, the Yarn Retreat series, has a recipe as well as a pattern. The other one that Betty Hechtman does, I think, just has a pattern in it. I have to look. I'm not sure. I'm actually reading, there is a new Betty Hechtman just came out with the Crochet Mysteries that I had talked about before. It's called Hooking for Trouble. I just started it the other day, so I haven't gotten into it. Nobody's died so far. So I just got into it like the first 10 or 15 pages. I was reading at lunchtime the other day. So I'm excited about reading that one because I always enjoy hers, and they're a fast read. If I can fit that in between all of my little projects I've got going on. So this is it for today. It's a shorter, well, not too much shorter segment, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again for all your suggestions with my hand cream, and hopefully I'll find that this next week and get started. I already have the sugar scrub, so I should be good with just getting the hand cream. And I guess that's it. I will see you next week. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye.